Pep Guardiola and Manchester City avoid Premier League fine after making change. Pep Guardiola held an early morning press conference at Manchester City on Friday, and he brought it forward to avoid being fined by the Premier League. Pep Guardiola changed the time of his Manchester City press conference on Friday to avoid being hit in the pocket by the Premier League, having previously been on the receiving end of the governing body's strict sanctions. The City boss has held his last two press conferences at 2 p.m. on a Friday, but this falls 30 minutes after the league's cut-off, which mandates that all 20 clubs should have started their media conference by 1:30 p.m. on Friday, regardless of which day of the weekend their game takes place. The Blues received dispensation from the league to push back those press conferences ahead of games against Bournemouth and Liverpool. But with Guardiola arranging training for midday on Friday, he was keen to start at 2 p.m. once again, only to be warned off the idea. City and Guardiola feared a fine if they made it 3 late starts in a row, so instead the 54-year-old opted for a 9 a.m. start and walked into the Grand Media Auditorium at the City Football Academy at 8:57 a.m. with a spring in his step. The Catalan cut a relaxed figure in front of the media, joking with journalists that the early start was the fault of the Premier League and that he didn't want to risk being slapped with another fine. "We are training later, and if we train at 12 until 1:30, I cannot be here at the press conference in time," Guardiola said. "The Premier League don't allow me at 2 p.m. The club said if I don't start by 2 p.m, they will fine me or fine the club." City know how punitive the Premier League can be, having been fined £3.17 million in the last 2 seasons for coming out late at the start of games and after half-time. In the 2023/24 season, the Blues were hit with a fine of just over £2 million for delaying kick-off 22 times across their 38 matches. Last season, they were docked just over £1 million after doing so on 9 occasions. Most of the offences relate to City coming out late after half-time, but Guardiola joked that City's 2023 Champions League final was delayed by a pre-game show featuring Burna Boy and Anita, and that the pop stars didn't receive a fine. "We paid a lot of money as I'm late at half-time," he said. "Sometimes I arrive 1 minute later, but the rules are the rules and Premier League is impeccable for that, right? When we played in the Champions League final, they had a show before the game and they are always late. They have to fine the singers. That is why I decided 9 a.m, and the journalists have had their breakfast and will need to take a coffee." Pep Guardiola makes bold Manchester City claim. "I don't have any doubts." Manchester City are well placed to mount a challenge on several fronts this season, and if his squad stays fit, Pep Guardiola is confident he can do it. Pep Guardiola has backed Manchester City to stay in the hunt for another treble this season, as long as he can keep his squad fit throughout the campaign. A year on from an injury crisis that derailed 2024/25, City are in much better shape and will be without just Rodri and Mateo Kovacic for Saturday's trip to Newcastle. Rodri is due back sooner rather than later, although Kovacic has been ruled out until at least February after undergoing a second round of surgery on a troublesome Achilles. City reached the FA Cup final last season, losing to Crystal Palace, and eventually rallied to finish third in the Premier League, although their title defence was over by this stage last term. They were knocked out of the Carabao Cup in the 4th round and beaten by Real Madrid in the Champions League playoff round. Guardiola has since claimed it was impossible to compete with his squad beset by injuries, but with a clean bill of health this season, the Blues are proving they are contenders once again. They could cut Arsenal's lead at the top of the Premier League to 1 point with a win at St James's Park, are in a strong position in the Champions League, and have already reached the Carabao Cup quarter-finals. "If we continue with the squad fit, we'll compete every single game and every single competition," declared Guardiola. "I don't have any doubts about that. Last season, we were not even going to compete in one competition, where everybody is right now. Kova will be a bit later, but Rodri will come back soon, and everybody can be available. Of course, during the season, there are injuries, we know that, but I feel we can compete in every competition. City have greater depth this season than at any point in Guardiola's reign after a £300 million spending spree in 2025 saw 10 new players arrive. That has allowed them to absorb Rodri's fitness issues and the loss of Kovacic. The Croatian had surgery in the summer after suffering an Achilles injury towards the end of last season, but has had to go back under the knife after struggling with further pain on his comeback, having managed just 37 minutes against Villarreal and Everton. He made an incredible effort. It was unbelievable with the pain, said Guardiola. He played a few minutes before the surgery and the training sessions, and we see how he suffered. We wanted to continue, but there arrived a moment where he could not continue, and the best is clean it and come back. If you take more time, it's fine. But to play football, you have to, at that age. Always you have niggles, have pain. It's normal, but not the limitation that he had before that surgery, and hopefully can recover well. Pep Guardiola's successor? Manchester City told ideal next manager who is best possible fit, former Manchester City, Arsenal and France defender Bakary Sagna has made clear who he thinks has all the qualities needed to succeed the great Pep Guardiola, as next Manchester City manager Vincent Kompany has been backed to replace Pep Guardiola as the next Manchester City boss. Guardiola will have clocked up a decade in charge of City before the start of next season. The Spaniard has also just reached his 1,000th game as a manager. Guardiola's current deal runs until 2027, and he is not expected to extend it. Guardiola has spoken of taking a break from football when he decides to leave the Etihad, just like he did when he called time on his tenure at Barcelona. It remains to be seen how long Guardiola will continue in the Premier League. But former City star Bakary Sagna reckons the ideal replacement for Guardiola would be current Bayern Munich boss Kompany. Kompany helped City win 12 trophies during his time captaining the club and led Bayern to the Bundesliga title last season. Sagna told Oddspedia, "I could see Vincent Kompany returning to Manchester City as manager after Pep Guardiola leaves. He knows the club very well and was there for years as a player and captain. I know he loves Manchester as a city too. I think he's still personally attached to them even after all these years. He's doing a brilliant job at Bayern Munich this season and has proven himself as a top-level coach. But I think it's the personal attachment with Manchester City which would make him the best fit possible to become the club's next manager. He won't move from Bayern anytime soon, so it will depend on timings if he were to return to City. But I think he would be a really good fit for them." Guardiola hinted earlier this season that he might not consider a break until 2035. He said, "In 2035, I will start to think about it. At the moment, I think I have the energy with my players to simply make a better season than last season," the Man City boss explained. "This is my target. I am never sitting here at the start of November and December and going to say we are going to win this or that. I see things that we are doing much better than last season, and in every game, we are a little bit better. There is the margin that we can do better in many aspects, and that gives me the energy that it's not job done. It's completely unfinished business. That's why I am here." Pep Guardiola gives Rodri injury update ahead of Newcastle versus Manchester City. He knows. Manchester City have been without Rodri in recent weeks, and Pep Guardiola has delivered an update on the fitness of the Spaniard. Manchester City will be without Rodri for Saturday's trip to Newcastle, and Pep Guardiola has urged the midfielder to show patience as he aims to get over his fitness issues once and for all. The 29-year-old is struggling to stay fit after returning from a lengthy layoff with an anterior cruciate ligament injury, and his latest setback has seen him miss games against Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool. He hasn't started a game since picking up a hamstring problem against Brentford in the first weekend of October. He has played just 1 minute of football since then, aborting his comeback attempt after coming off the bench late on against Bournemouth. Rodri suffered a serious knee injury in September 2024, and although he returned in the final week of last season, staying fit and hitting a level of consistency that took him to the Ballon d'Or in 2024 have proved elusive. That's why Guardiola is being cautious with his latest return from injury, and Rodri will miss the trip to Newcastle as he bids to build up his fitness. Rodri is making good steps. "It's almost 3 weeks since the last step back," said Guardiola. He knows that he has to take the time to recover mentally, and especially physically with the problems that he's had, to be consistent from now until the end. Guardiola will also be without Mateo Kovacic after surgery on his Achilles, but everyone else is fit for a game that Guardiola expects to be difficult. "Top, I never see the table at this stage," he said of Newcastle. "Top team, one of the toughest places, difficult games, a Champions League team. They're doing really well. We're ready for the challenge. It's the beginning of a demanding run for the Blues, who will play twice a week from now, until January at least. With the 3 international breaks now out of the way and the action not due to pause again until March, Guardiola believes this is the moment that the season really gets underway. The truth is, the team as strong as Arsenal in the last seasons, not just this season, impacts on many things, he said. The feeling I had in the past when we fought incredibly against Liverpool, I had the feeling they will not drop many points, and if they get a lot of distance, it will be difficult to catch up. Similar with Liverpool last season. We had that moment's experience, now we have in our careers. If you take an advantage of 9 to 12 points, nothing is going to happen if you drop points, and for the other one, it is incredibly difficult. We are in November, and in November in this league, nothing is final. What happens in February or March, be careful. But now it starts the season now. First start is when the transfer window is over in the summer. And now when the international breaks are over. Now will be until March we see each other every 3 days. Now the reason season starts. Important is to be there and to arrive at the end of the season with a chance to fight it. Winning tomorrow would be an important step for us. Manchester City are finding the shoe is on the other foot ahead of Newcastle game with Pep Guardiola. Right all along, Manchester City travel to St James's Park this weekend with an almost fully fit squad, while their opponents have